Hello everyone, I'm Joseph Dinesh, a Catholic commentator from Sydney, Australia. In a new Apple TV show, Hollywood stars Jon Hamm and Amanda Peet are shown breaking into the Catholic Church, stealing the consecrated Eucharist and chewing on it like it's a prop from a snack commercial. Sounds unbelievable, right? I wish I were making it up, but no, this actually happened. Just watch the scene for yourself and you will see exactly what I mean.
You're going to hell.
Yes. Tell me something I don't know. Crackers.
Oh my God, they open up the tabernacle. They have coffee wafers here, and they're snacking on them like Triscuits.
Are we sure it's a Catholic church?
Yes. They put jelly on them.
And she's also
After watching that scene, I had a flood of thoughts. Anger, sadness, disbelief, all of it. But before I get into my own reflections, I want you to hear what Megyn Kelly and our panel had to say about it. Let's take a look.
This is disgusting.
I mean, I'm also Catholic, practicing, but I'm not so scandalized.
You don't care.
by it. I mean,
you're rarely scandalized.
sort of, I guess. Yeah, maybe. But with that, it's like Hollywood is so secularized and hostile
that's
to
true.
Christianity and then Catholicism, especially because it's the main one.
So I was going to say, if that's true, they're just so secularized. Where is the film on showing somebody drawing the so-called Prophet Muhammad?
We're going to make it.
You should. I'll help bankroll it. We'll be dead by 2026. That's the difference between Islam and Christianity.
Yeah.
Megyn Kelly is absolutely right. Hollywood loves to parade itself as bold, secular, and rebellious, but in reality, its rebellion is selective. It only ever mocks one faith, Christianity. You won't see them taking aim at Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, or Buddhism. No, the target is almost always Christianity and more specifically, the Catholic Church. And given America's deep-rooted history of anti-Catholic sentiment, it's really no surprise that Hollywood keeps circling back to the same old punching bag.
Catholics are easier targets.
Yeah.
Because of their own scandals and perceived hypocrisies. And Catholicism, through some fault of its own, has a lot of cachet. And it's like a sexy
bashing priests is like, don't leave your daughter or your son alone with them.
Right.
I'd say, unfortunately.
But I think that they're...
I completely disagree with what she's saying. Catholics aren't easy targets because of the scandals in the church. We are targeted because we are tolerant. We don't respond with violence or threats when our most sacred beliefs are mocked. And if scandals are the justification, then we are seriously going to pretend that other religions like Islam, for example, have no controversies of their own? That argument falls apart pretty quickly.
I am a believer and I'm a Catholic. And I have to say, that is the most sacrosanct thing they could take to bash.
Sure.
Megyn Kelly is absolutely right. As the Second Vatican Council teaches, the Eucharist is the source and summit of Christian life. So to desecrate it isn't just a disrespectful act. It's a direct assault on the real presence of Jesus Christ. That's why the church takes it so seriously. In fact, anyone who knowingly and deliberately desecrates the Eucharist is automatically excommunicated. So the Eucharist isn't just important, it's the most sacred part of Catholic life.
Former Pope Francis, came from this diocese in Argentina where they did experience a miracle. They found a communion wafer on the floor of the church and somebody brought it to the church or to the priest to say, somebody must have dropped this. And there's a whole protocol they're supposed to go through when that happens. You have to lock it up or whatever. And they did that and the thing was bloodied. After a couple of days, they called in an outside agency. They tested it. They found actual flesh, DNA. You can believe or not believe. But I'm just saying for Catholics, we believe that that's the actual body of Jesus Christ. And
Now, even if you don't believe in the Eucharistic miracles, those rare events where the host visibly becomes flesh or blood, we as Catholics are still bound to believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. That's what makes this scene so outrageous. Hollywood didn't just mock a symbol, it mocked what we believe is Christ himself. And honestly, outside of generating controversy and grabbing attention, it's hard to see why else they would stoop so low to attack one of the most practiced religions in their country. So the question is, how did we get to this point? where even Catholics are silent or indifferent about this kind of attack. For that, we turn to Bishop Barron, who has been sounding the alarm for years. He points to a troubling Pew Research study showing that nearly 70% of Catholics no longer believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. So in the first clip, Bishop Barron identifies one major cause: the near complete neglect of the Church's intellectual and doctrinal tradition. He explains how poor catechesis, especially in many parishes where young people are barely formed in the faith, has led to this massive disconnect. Let's listen.
There are those in the church today, and I just think it's so stupid, that want to drive a wedge between apologetics or catechesis or the intellectual on the one hand, and then, being friendly and reaching out to people on the other hand. So, well, just do that and we'll be great. And, all this apologetics, intellectual stuff, that's all beside the point. Yeah, tell me about it. How's that worked out for us? How's that little strategy? And trust me, I grew up with it. I know all about it. Go back to the 1960s and 70s when I was a kid, it was all about let's be nice and let's reach out and don't worry about books and ideas and all that. Well, what we're seeing is the bitter fruit of it. That's what happens when you utterly bracket the apologetic, the catechetical, the intellectual. You get 75% of our own people don't believe a central teaching of our faith. And so I would say, again, I'm blaming myself, bishops, priests, everybody. Don't write me letters and say, you're picking on catechists. We're all guilty, okay? But it's been a massive failure on the part of the church carrying on its own tradition.
The second reason Bishop Barron highlights builds directly on the first. While some Catholics abandon the intellectual side of the faith, others go to the opposite extreme, reducing Catholicism entirely to the acts of social justice. Let's listen.
Here's the other thing, too, that strikes me is, again, I grew up with this church, and it's making a comeback now. My suspicion is a lot of people might say, who cares? If people don't believe in the real presence, as long as they're committed, to the poor, or they're committed to social justice, isn't that what really matters? Well, of course, that's a Kantianism, as I've said many times. That's a reduction of religion to morality, which is repugnant to Catholicism. Caring for the poor is an essential aspect of the church's life, but it's not the whole of the church's life. But more to it. Look at the truly great figures in our tradition who cared for the poor. Go back to Vincent de Paul. Come up through Mother Teresa and Dorothy Day. Look at one of my heroes, Reynold Hillenbrand, who was great, committed to social justice. What do they have in common, all these people? What they have in common is a profound understanding of and love for the Eucharist. If you line up Dorothy Day, Catherine Drexel, Jacques Maritain, Reynold Hillenbrand, Vincent de Paul in this room, and you said, hey, is the Eucharist a nice symbol of Jesus? They'd go into open rebellion. My point is, you take away these key doctrines. And of course, the Eucharist is tied to the divinity of Jesus. It's tied to the incarnation, tied to the sacraments and to the church and to everything else. You take away the central teachings of our church at the doctrinal level. Trust me when I tell you, you will take away eventually the commitment to the poor. That will evanesce as quickly as the doctrines have evanesced. It belongs together as a whole,
So in this mindset, the faith becomes nothing more than helping the poor or advocating for the marginalized. And while those works are absolutely essential, the problem is when people act as though belief no longer matters. The attitude becomes, as long as I'm feeding the hungry and clothing the naked, like Jesus said, that's enough. But Bishop Barron rightly points out that this creates a dangerous false dichotomy. The Catholic faith has never been about choosing between the right belief and the right action. In fact, one leads to the other. So in conclusion, as Pope Benedict XVI stated so clearly in his writings, the Church's deepest nature is expressed in threefold responsibility. First, proclaiming the Word of God. Second, celebrating the sacraments. And third, exercising the ministry of charity. These duties presuppose each other and are inseparable. I hope this video is helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. God bless you.